Hey everyone, so if you have your triangles and lazy daisies and inner border done, then it's time to move on. Hey everyone, Cristin Som here, and I think we might finish up our January cutie today. I'm not absolutely sure, but we'll see. So, oh my gosh, is this the cutest thing ever? I can't believe how adorable this is. I'm absolutely loving it. So we did our triangles, our inner borders, and our lazy daisy all are together now. So it is time to do the outer borders. But before we can do the outer borders, we need to make sure and do our corners first because we're going to add them on. So our corners, let's go ahead and talk about what we need for our corners. So for the corners, we are going to have 4 pieces. It is the sage green, silky solid, plain fabric. And these are 2.5 by 2.5, and you want 4 of them. I did back mine with fusible stabilizer. That's up to you. You don't want a whole lot of pulling in on these though, because it will change the sizing of your, from your quilting. But that's my little tip. You do you. So 2.5 by 2.5 for each of these corners, and we are going to quilt them. So we're going to quilt them with the bitty blocks. They're in a different folder, their own folder on the CD for the Cuties table toppers. So it's called Bitty Block Skis. That's the one that we're going to be looking for. And it's probably 2-inch size. I assume I haven't pulled it up yet, but if these are 2.5, I assume that our quilting will be about 2 inches. So to be able to do our quilting, we're going to have our batting. So for our batting, you want 4 pieces that are 3 by 3. If you're doing it all in one hooping, which I'm going to do, you could just do one big piece of batting. It's totally up to you. I already cut mine, so mine are 3 by 3, 4 pieces of the batting. All right, and we have to do those before we do our outer blocks, or I'm sorry, our outer borders, because we're going to attach them on. All right, so we'll talk about the outer borders in just a minute. Hey everyone, so I'm at my computer and I'm going to show you how to merge together the corner blocks and then the outer borders. I'm using Embellishment Essentials, and I think that we could probably use you could probably use a 5 by 7 hoop. I think that would be too tight for me. Maybe. Actually, I think it'd be okay. Let's go ahead and try. Let's see. So if we go here to this preferences folder, we can change our hoop size. You can always see what size hoop you have down here at the bottom. But I'm going to, let's just try out a 5 by 7 and see what fits. All right, so you can see that we have our hoop here. I'm going to go to this compass and click H. It'll zoom into the whole hoop. All right, and then we're going to go to Merge Stitch File. So the design for the quilting on the corners is just those little bitty blocks. So right here, the bitty blocks folder, we are using the block by block technique, and we're looking for the skis right down there. So double click on that. And it is, let's see what size, it's 2.5 by 2.5 for the quilting. So, and our fabric is, all right, our fabric is 2.5 by 2.5. So we actually have plenty of room. There shouldn't be any overlap. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring the first one over far to the corner here. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and change these up so that they will join. So those of you that are new to Embrilliance, just follow step by step. I've had a couple of people ask me how to do it, and it literally I go through each little step, and you don't have to worry about having any past experience or anything because I go over all of it. So let's just do this one real quick. So here we have our quilting design. You can see it over here, and then you can see that there's default blues and default oranges. If we don't change those colors, they will join together, and then it will defeat the purpose of having a placement for our batting and a placement for our main fabric. So we want to make sure to change those so that they don't join together. So we really only have to change the two that are the same. So we don't have to go and change all 5 pieces. We could just change 2. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to click on this 1-3. You can see that this is number 1 design has 5 steps in it, and the third step, 1-3 here, if I click on the color and I can change it to whatever color works, I'm going to change it to the first color that comes up for me, which is dark aqua. And then for 1-4, same thing. We have that default 2 orange in 2 places. We don't want them to be the same. We want them different so that we can join them how we want them to, instead of the software joining it how they want to join it. So on 1-4, I'm going to click on that and then click on the color, and I'm going to change it to the first color that comes up, which is Blaze, and I'll say OK. That's really the only changes that we need to make, is that 1-3 and 1-4, or you could do 1-1 and 1-2. It doesn't matter, but the 2 that were the same, we want to make sure to change those. So now that we have all of the colors changed to what we want, we can go ahead and click on the design. You can do it there or you can do it over here. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to say Control C on my keyboard to copy, and then Control V to paste. And you can see that now instead of 1 design, we have 2 designs, and it goes right on top of it. So you want to click anywhere on the stitching to be able to move it over to the side. And when you move it over, you want to make sure that it's not going over the hoop at all. All right, we want to make sure that it is lined up in a way that it's not going to upset your machine. All right, that one's actually pretty close to the line. I'm tempted to use my 6x6 hoop. I think I will. This is very, very close. Since the fabric is 2.5 and the design is 2.5, you're not going to have much overlap, but it's pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and change to a 6x6 hoop just to give me a little bit of room. It definitely can be done in a 5x5 or an 8x8 or whatever you feel comfortable with. I do have a 6x6 hoop. I also have an 8x8. Let's see if yep, there's my 6x6. All right. So now see how it went over the lines. This is where it would cause a problem and say, oh, you're over the hoop, I can't help you here. So you want to make sure that you're to pull your design within the hoop size. That yellow part is showing you your hoop. All right, so there's 2 of them done already. So if I hit Control V again to paste another one, there it is right there, and I can bring that one down to the bottom. And then one more Control V to have 4 designs. We have all 4 pieces now. If I close these up, you can see. All right, so see there's 4 different designs. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, and they're already all colored so that we can do a color sort. All right, so let's go ahead and go to Utility Color Sort. Let me first look at what we have. 20 color steps. You can see it right down here at the bottom. It says 5 of 20. So I'm going to go to Utility Color Sort, and it says it's reduced it by 15 color changes. And don't forget about these position and tolerance. We want the same settings so that you're getting the same information that I'm getting. And then click New View. You can see we're on Untitled 1 now. It will create a new tab, New View. See, now we've got 2 tabs. The first one has 4 designs. You can see that. And then the second tab, they're all joined together in 1 design. So if I open that up to just check and see what it did, make sure it's all correct, there's our placement for our batting and our tack down for our batting, and then our placement for our main fabric, which is those little corner fabrics, and then the tack down for that, or the basting stitch. And then we have the quilting for all 4. So that was super easy. Like I said, I changed to my 6x6 hoop just to give me a little bit of room. It can definitely be done in a 5x5 or a 5x7, whatever works for you. My machine is not on, so I'm going to do a file, save stitch file as, and we are in the diamonds and sunburst. So I'm going to move it to the bitty blocks. Let's see. All right, there's the bitty blocks, block by block, and I'm just going to name it Skis Quad because there's 4 of them. All right, and say save, and then I could send it to my machine if my machine was on, but it's not on. then once you have your corner blocks done, then we're going to do our outer borders. So for the outer borders, very simple. We have these, the blue wavy fabrics. These are directional. It's very important that they are directional. And if you look in your booklet, I believe it was on like page 2. Let me look real quick here. On page 5, there is a guide. And if you look at the guide, it will show you on directional fabrics what way to cut them. So that's really important. I mean, this is your project. You can do it however you want, but they are a directional fabric. So just keep that in mind when you're preparing your fabrics. All right, so we want 4 pieces of these, and I didn't cut them to size. I really recommend not cutting them to size yet, but that's up to you. I always stabilize mine. Mine have the fusible backing on the back, so I don't need to worry as much about the stitching pulling in on the fabrics, but I like to cut them down when I assemble it. So I cut mine to almost 22 inches on each of them, but we need 2 of them that are, let's see, oh, actually all 4 are going to be the same. They are going to be 18 inches of the quilting. So we want 4 pieces that are 2.5 by 2.5 by 18 for these. But again, I don't cut them until I assemble, so I would just wait if I were you. And then for our quilting, we're going to have 2 inches of quilting, and then times the length of your hoop, whatever works for you. We're using Sunburst. It's really cute, this little floral one. It's super cute. So Sunburst, and it's the KDQ 150. I think KDQ 150 is all of them. I'm not absolutely sure about that, but I seem to recall that same number that I keep saying it. So the Sunburst one, and it's the 2-inch size. And I looked through all the quilting sizes, and I'll go over that when I bring you over to the machine, but I'm going to go ahead and just do the 10-inch size because we're going to do 4 of them, and since we're adding on those corner blocks, we don't need like longer. You would think that 2 of them are going to be 18 inches and 2 of them are going to be 22. Well, that's not accurate because we're going to add those corners. Those corners will give us that extra length. So we are just going to keep these long for now, and then when we're ready to assemble, we will cut them down to 18 inches and we will add on those corner blocks. So for the batting, I'm going to do it like we did the inner borders. That I think is the easiest. So you want 4 pieces of batting. Did I write down? I think they're 18 inches. 17.5. It should be 17.5. That makes sense. Yep, 17.5, 4 pieces that are 2 inches by 17.5. All right, exactly. And don't forget, I mentioned on the inner border video that as you're putting on your glue stick or your spray adhesive, whatever you're using, and you're pushing it down onto the strip fabric, it can get a little longer. The batting can get a little bit longer. So check before you finish it off because you really don't want these longer. You want them to be exact. So 2 inches by 17.5, 4 pieces for your batting. All right, and so we're going to go ahead and get started on those borders, and oh my gosh, it's just going to be so cute. Are you excited? It's not on. So I am going to now open a new tab, File, New Page, and I'm going to work on the outer borders. So for the outer borders, I'm going to do 4 of the 10-inch size. I'm going to show you real quick. So I'm going to change my hoop size. Right now I'm on my 6x6. I'm going to go to this preferences folder, and I'm going to change to my 10x10 hoop and see how that works out and say okay. All right, so now you can't see your hoop. If you were to zoom out, you could see it, but it just zoomed in so much that you couldn't see it. I'm using the little scroll button on my mouse when I'm doing that, scrolling in and out to make it larger or smaller. I think that was a thing in preferences of how you want to be able to zoom. So the other option, of course, is to go up here to this H button and it will zoom into your entire hoop. All right, so I'm on my 10x10. It's actually more than 10.5 by 10.5, so that should work out just fine. So let's go ahead and start bringing in those outer borders. So if I go to Merge Stitch File, this button up here, and then I'm going to look for the what is it? Diamonds and Sunburst right there. Diamond and Sunburst. Click on that and it'll populate with all the designs that are in that folder. And then I'm going to quickly show you all the different sizes. So the 1x10, not 1, sorry, 2-inch. We're on the 2-inch now because we're doing the outer borders. So here's the 2x10. If I double click on that, I can see that it is 2.5 inches by 9 7/16. So we want 18 inches of quilting. Really, let's see. 18 inches of quilting is what we need. So doing 2 hoopings of this would work out great. It actually would work out almost perfectly. There'd be a little bit of overage and we'll just let that run off on the edge because we've got our batting exactly the right size. So that one is great. I'm going to go ahead and move this over here. And then I'm just going to show you the other size options for those that have different hoop sizes or want to do it a different way. So where was it? So border, diamonds, and sunburst. And that was the 2x10. Here's the 2x12. And you can see it's bigger than my hoop. That's why it turned red. So on this one, the size is 2.5 by 11 inches. So if you did 2 of those, you'd get 22 inches. And that would work fine too. We don't need quite that much, but you could certainly do that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I just wanted to show you it is 2.5 by 11 inches for the 12-inch size. All right, so merge stitch file, and I'm going to bring in one more, or actually 2 more, just to show you the sizes. All right, here's the 2x14. And again, it's too big for my 10-inch hoop. It is, let's see, just that design. You got to click on the design. You want to see the size. It's 2.5 by 12 5/8 for the 14-inch. 2.5 by 12 5/8. All right, and again, that's bigger than we need it to be, but it certainly would work if you want to do that. You could do that, and then smaller on the others, whatever works. All right, and then one more. I'm going to show you for those that have a 5x7 hoop. Here's the 2x7, and that one, click on the design, it is 2.5 inches by 6 5/16. So less than 6.5, 2.5 by less than 6.5. And that would work. You would have to do 3 hoopings to get 18 inches. You'd get a little more than 18, and that would work fine because of how we're going to do the batting. All right, so done with that. Click on that, delete. So I'm going to work on this one, the 2x10. I think that one will work the best for me. And I'm using the 10-inch size, which is actually 9 7/16, so a little less than 9.5 inches. Now, as you can see, we've got the blue and orange and the blue and light orange because this is a border design. So if you are going to do the batting the way I'm going to do it, where I attach the batting onto the fabric strip, you can go ahead and click on this first one and the second one and delete. This is the placement of the batting and the tack down of the batting. And if you're attaching your batting to your fabric like I'm going to show you, then you don't need those steps. I'm going to keep them in just to remind people on the tutorial to bypass them. But you could delete those and then you don't need to change any colors. That would work super fine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and change the first one because those of you that hit delete on 1 and 2, you won't need to change any color. So I'm just going to change the first one and I'm going to choose the first color that comes up, which is dark aqua. All right, and then I have all 5 steps and none of them are the same now. You can see I have dark aqua, default orange, default blue, default light orange, and default turquoise. So that works fine. All right, so I can go ahead and copy and paste this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control C on my keyboard now that I've already changed the colors to what I needed, and then Control V to paste. And you can see it created a second one. Now I'm going to go ahead and just take it and move it out of the way. All right, so that since it's copy and paste, the colors are already the same as what we need them to be because we want to make sure that they're going to be the same. So notice I talked about this in all of the videos, but I do get questions now and then. So see 1-1 here, this dark aqua is the same as 2-1, so those will join. and then 1, 2, and 2, 2 are both default to orange, so those will join. We want them to be the same color in the different designs. So design 1 and design 2 all have the same colors within that number. So 2, 3 is the same as 1, 3, the same color, so that those will join. I hope that that makes sense. I'm not sure how else to say it, but if you follow step by step, when I go through here and I say, I'm going to change this one to this color, you do that same. It doesn't matter what color, but it does matter that 1, 2, and 2, 2 are the same. So if you just follow those steps, you will have the same results. All right, so we have the first 2 designs done. We need 4 of them. So I'm going to say Control V again, and it goes over that first one again. And I'm just going to bring it over. And then one more, Control V, to paste a 4th one. And I'm going to bring this one over to the very edge so that I can utilize all of my hoop. All right, now you can see that they are all wonky because I haven't lined them up yet. I did that on purpose to be able to show you that align and distribute again like we did on the inner borders. All right, so we have all 4 designs. I'm going to close this just so you can see them all. All right, we have 4 designs here, and while they are not color sorted is when you want to do that utility align and distribute. So right here, align and distribute under utility. All right, and then I do this left center button only, and that seems to do what I need it to do. I'll say okay. I didn't highlight them. I always forget that. Oh my goodness, sorry. So you have to have the designs all highlighted so it knows what designs you want to align. Sorry about that. So I have all 4. All I did was click out, up, down from the bottom and drag up, and then utility, align and distribute, and again that left center button. And you can see that they all centered up so that they are all the same height. That works perfectly. And then I want to go to this distribute tab just to make sure I've got the same amount of room between each of them. You can see these are overlapping and there's room between these 2. So I'm going to click the distribute part of that tab, and I've got it on center, and I'll say, and I also have extent of selection selected, and click apply, and you'll see they move just a bit so that now there's the same amount of space between each of these. It's funny, it's not really. This has a little bit more, a little less space than these. Interesting. But they're all, so there's 2 on the left side of the hoop and there's 2 on the right side of the hoop. So anyway, it works great. We're going to have our fabric be within these lines, these blue lines, so it's not going to matter at all to be able to, we're not going to have overlap of our fabric anyway. So we want to, when we place these fabrics, it's really important that you place them within that placement stitch, the placement box. It's very important to get those lined up. You can, when you stitch out the placement lines on our stabilizer, those are there for us to line up those fabric strips. I saw someone was saying in the group the other day that their strips were all off, and my guess is that they weren't lined up in the placement box, but I'm not absolutely sure what happened. But either way, that's the point of the placement box, is you want to have those strips exactly lined up all the way down. You've got to look at those strips and tape it in place, and I show all that in the tutorials as well. So we've got this one all done. Actually, we haven't color sorted yet. We did the align and distribute, so I'm going to go to utility color sort, because right now we have 20 color steps. You can see it right down here, 20 color steps. So let's go ahead and do a utility color sort. And it says it's reduced it by 15 color changes. So I'm going to click New View. Here's the older one with all 4 designs, and here's the new tab with everything in one step now, or one design. So this first one is the placement for the batting. That's all perfect. They're all joined. And then the tack down of the batting. And again, you don't need those. You can delete 1 and 2 if you add your batting onto your fabric strip. I'm leaving it in just for the tutorial. And then 1, 3, we have the placement of our main fabric, which is the strips, and then 1, 4 is the tack down. You can see it's different because it only does the sides on the borders. And then we have the quilting for all of them. Isn't that so pretty? I love that one. That's so pretty. It's funny because we're really not going to see it because the fabric is so busy, but it's a really pretty quilting design that we got in our quilting bundle for the cuties. All right, so that's all done. It's all perfect. I'm going to go ahead and save it. File, save, stitch file as. And I'm in the bitty blocks. I don't want to be in the bitty blocks. I'm going to go back to the files. Yep, there we go. All right, so I'm going to say this is the sunburst. Yeah, sunburst quad, because there's 4 of them. And that will work fine. I'm going to say in my 10 by 10 hoop so that I remember what hoop size to use and say save. All right, I don't have my machine on, so I am going to transfer it over when I have my machine on. So that was super easy, very, very fun and quick and easy to do. So let's go ahead and get stitching our borders. Hey everyone, so once you have your first 4 strips quilted with the first hooping, you can tell the part that's quilted versus the part that's unquilted. So then you're going to do the same thing with your hoop. You're going to rehoop and run through that step 3. Since we added batting onto our fabric, we can bypass steps 1 and 2. So you're going to do step 3, which is the placement of the main fabric. So you have that already stitched on your hoop, on your stabilizer, and then we are going to put our completed strips, or halfway completed I should say. So you can see we've got the first hooping already all quilted, and what you do is at the end where you can see where you trimmed the stabilizer and where the quilting ends, you fold that part right there, right at that. It's very easy to do because of the quilting and the stabilizer. So just fold that part and then line that part up. Make sure you can see. Line that part up within the placement box. I know it's hard to see with this mint but you want to make sure it's inside of that. I saw somebody post the other day that their tack downs didn't work, and the only thing I can think of, and I don't know exactly, but is if she didn't have it lined up within the box. That's the only thing I can think of. Anyway, so fold it in half. You've got the quilting side on one and the unquilted side on the other. The unquilted side is going to go within that box. All right, so just line that up right at the top of that box and making sure that the sides are all lined up as well. Fold back the completed part, the part that's already been quilted, and then tape it in place. All right, and then just make sure that you're within those lines of the batting, or I'm sorry, not the batting, of the placement stitch. All the way down, make sure it's all lined up, and then tape it in place. And then do that for all 4 of them. So again, very simply, fold it back where the quilting has ended and put the unquilted part within the box, and the other part goes over the top of the hoop. All right, and tape in place. All right, and then I'm not completely sure that we'll get to it today. I'm hoping so, but I'm going to go ahead and film it just in case. So next up would be the backing. After we do our outer borders and those corners, we are going to have backing. So our backing fabric, mine is the dark gray with white dots on it. I saw in the directions that you could get the gray with stars. Either one will work great. It doesn't matter, but we want 24 inches. Right, 24 by 24 for your backing fabric. All right, 24 by 24 for your backing fabric, and I'll show you how to do that in photos. It's very simple. So let's get started on the backing. And then the very last step is the binding. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. We're almost done. So the binding is our last folder, and it is the gray with star dots on it, and it's just like that inner border that we used. So for our binding, we want where was it? The binding is going to be 2.5 inches times width of fabric. So at the length of the fabric that we received, and 2 pieces. And then I actually added fusible stabilizer to mine by mistake. So I pointed that out in the prep video that this also came with our inner border fabric. And so I just put stabilizer on the whole thing. I would not recommend doing it on the binding. I think it'll just kind of get in the way. I've actually never done this before, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And it said 2 strips, and I had enough for 3, so I went ahead and cut a 3rd one. I'm not sure why, but I had extra, and so I figured, well, we'll utilize it. And if I don't use it, then I will put it in my little bin that I keep my extras in. So the gray star fabric and 2 pieces that are 2.5 inches wide times width of fabric, that's for our binding. Hey everyone, if you haven't seen me do the binding before, I'm going to just show you what works for me. Everyone's got their own technique. I like to do it by machine, some do it by hand. I start on the back of the project, and when I get to about 1/2 inch from the end of the corner, I mark it. So I mark the 1/2 inch so I know where to stop, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch until I get to that point, and then I'll show you what I do next. All right, and then I back it up and not lock it down or tie it off, whatever, and cut. And then I pull it out of the machine, and hopefully you can see this. I wasn't able to zoom in further. I'll try when I get to the editing screen. So I've got it to my 1/2 inch marker here, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it based on that corner. So we've got the corner here. I'm going to line it up so that the edge is right at that corner and lined up straight, so that this goes at a perfect straight angle. And then once I have that correct, I'm going to bring this top part down, holding it in place. And then I will pivot, and I start up from the top with that 1/4 inch seam allowance and keep going all the way down until I get to a 1/2 inch from the corner again. when we flip it over to the front side, that's when we will make the mitered corner based on the edge that we did. All right, remember that little pocket that we made in the very beginning? Now we're going to fill that pocket with the end of our strip, so of our binding strip. So all you're going to do is line up past that. Here's where the pocket starts. We're just going to line it up and then trim. Alright, and there's your excess binding. And then just make sure that this can fit within your pocket. You can trim it a little bit more if needed. Alright, and then we're just going to stitch it closed. That's how I finish off the binding. There's other techniques for sure, but I've actually always done it this way. It's just easy, convenient. So do what works for you. Alright, so now we're doing the front. You just pull the fabric over to the front and stitch it down. I use a decorative stitch here. And then once you get to the corners, I lock it off and then pull it out from the machine. And then I just kind of put my finger in there, work it around a little bit to be able to make that mitered corner. It's easier if you did not put fusible backing on your fabric. I've never done that before, and I did it by mistake on this one. So anyway, you're just going to fold it, hopefully you can see this, into that 90-degree angle. And then once you have it, then we're just going to stitch it down. All right, you're working for a mitered corner. And my shirt today is Joy to the World. I really like this one. It was a fun one. I did this with my niece. She came over and we each made one, and I think some others in the group made one as well. I don't recall. But I will add information. I think it was Alphalicious Designs that made this design, and it is a like triple bean stitch, I think it's called. So it was just a really fun design to make, and the sweater is from Macy's. I love the sweater, it's super comfortable. But anyway, I will add information under the video. Oh, and we did a tutorial for this. My niece and I did a tutorial specifically for this shirt. So if you haven't watched one of my shirt making videos, I have like 3 of them now, I think 3 or 4 of them. But this one was a fun one, and lots of information on stabilizing shirts and how they are different and so on and so forth. So I will add information under this video for the that video that we made. So now that we're finishing up this project, does that mean I have to stop eating candy? I made that for my December goal for this project. I know it's a silly one, but it's fun to do something different. So I haven't decided for sure what I'm gonna have tonight, but I bought a bag of peach rings. They look really good, so I probably will snack on these while I'm working on finishing off this project. So what are you going to have?